So this is the story of how I quit my job the year I turned 40. In this video, I'm going to share why I did it and share what I did to lead up to it to make it possible and give you an update on where I am now. So I'm Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help people in the startup phase, whether they're starting a nonprofit or thinking about how to be an entrepreneur and manage that startup process. So I wanted to share the story of how I transitioned to work for myself and talk a little bit about how I got there. And I want to share 5 things that I did to prepare myself to transition when I did it. And like I said, at the end, I'll tell you where I am now and how I'm doing. So really quickly, the reason why I wanted to transition to work for myself is because I don't like working for other people. And I'm not one of those people who had a horrible job. I actually was working for a place that was the best job I ever had. I was working for them 100% remotely and was doing travel, was doing work in my career, was getting paid well, was being treated with respect, all those things. But I knew deep down that I just don't like working a job and I didn't want to be tied to another business. And honestly, I wanted room to be authentically myself. And I always felt like if I was representing someone else's business that I couldn't be myself because I was on the hook for them. I didn't want to do or say something that didn't kind of match their brand or how they wanted to say it and mess up their coins. I didn't want to do that. So I never felt free. And it was no fault to the owners at all, but I just never felt free enough to just be myself. So I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know how to get there, or I wasn't even sure that was possible. I didn't have any models in my life. My father has tried multiple times to do businesses but never got them going. And I never had like a business mentor or somebody who I could watch and learn from to see how to do this. So all of this I learned kind of just watching and trial and error. And so I'm going to share with you what I did leading up to the transition from my 9-to-5 to working for myself full time, in case this helps somebody on that journey or you're trying to figure out what you need to do, especially at this point in your career. I had gotten to the point when I was 40 where I had been working in my same career, let's say probably 15 years. And I was just kind of at a point where I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it anymore. I wasn't sure if it really was the thing that would keep me going. Could I see myself doing that till retirement age? I wasn't sure. So I just want to share some tips for what I did to kind of manage that and how, when I turned 40, I did it. So the first thing I did is I created a 10-year plan. And this was nothing fancy. This was literally a document where I opened my computer and I said to myself, in 10 years, where do I want to be? And what was interesting about this 10-year plan is it wasn't that I was saying in 10 years, I was going to be working for myself full time. I knew in less time I would be working for myself, but I just felt like I needed to write a 10-year plan for where my life was. And then when I started working at the job and kind of get into the groove of things, I just said to myself, you know what? In 2022, I'm no longer going to be working for anybody else but myself. I have no idea where that year came from. I just kept telling people in 5 years, I'm gonna be working for myself. And I would say it halfway believing it, but I wanted it so bad that I just kept telling people, hey, I'm determined this is going to happen. So in my 10-year plan, I just asked myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? How do I want my life to be? And I didn't keep it just to business-wise or career-wise. I did it for my personal life, my social life, for my romantic life, family life, all those things. And I just wrote out in a document like a brain dump of what I wanted. And it wasn't an official plan because I'm a planner. So for me, a plan is write the task, who's going to do it, what's the deadline. It was nothing that detailed. It was just me almost for the first time in my life saying, where do I want to be? What do I want my life to look like? And I had never had the freedom and the space to breathe and to think that. And I just decided like I needed to do that for myself. So I wrote out that 10-year plan. Interestingly enough though, that 10-year plan, I think going through that process made me get into motion around certain things that I hadn't been doing in the past. And it gave me a greater sense of awareness of what I could do and where I could go. The second thing I did to prepare to quit my job is I did a lot of different side hustles. I think the pandemic contributed to this, but it was before the pandemic that I was working side hustles. I'm the type of person, I'm hungry for information. I like to learn new things. I like to try new things. So I did a bunch of different side hustles. When I started my job, my very last job, I actually was making body butter. And it was the first time I attempted to have an official business that was registered with the Secretary of State's office, and I made body butters. So I was doing that as a side hustle, and I was learning things through that process, but that wasn't the only side hustle I had, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to pay myself a salary on that business. I was not that committed, and I just didn't like it enough to be doing that full time. But I still did it as a side hustle to get my feet wet. So I went all in. I had a launch party. I had a website. I went and vended at fairs and all kinds of things. But I also tried eBay, and I also tried selling on Amazon, and I started a YouTube channel kind of like as a side hustle. And I actually started my business, Boss on a Budget, as a side hustle because I had no idea that it would be the business that would take me full time. I just didn't know. I just tried different side hustles. So one of the things that I learned from my side hustles was about marketing, because I had to figure out how to sell things. And most of the times my side hustles were actually tangible items. And I had never done that before. I never worked a sales job, had no idea what marketing was like. And it forced me to think about how to market. It forced me to think about how to sell. And it helped me realize I'm a terrible salesperson, and it helped me kind of come to terms with the things that I needed to grow in and the things that I needed to do better with. So doing those side hustles kind of helped prepare me for understanding what it takes to run a business full time, especially around the marketing. The third thing I did was I got smarter with my money. So I actually, when I would make money with my side hustles, I reinvested them into the business, and most times I did not take money for myself. If I did take anything for myself, it was to purchase things like equipment or like a computer or a camera or something like that. And that was still for the business or the business hustles that I was trying. So I never really took like a salary or paid myself before I went full time. There was very little that I took out for personal reasons. I'm glad I did that, because with my side hustles, as I started to grow and make more money, I wasn't taking into consideration my taxes. And so I wasn't paying taxes in advance or paying my quarterly taxes. I was waiting to the end of the year to pay my taxes. Not a great strategy at all. And so as I started to make more money, I started to owe more taxes. And so I had to pay like lump sums at the end of the year, which really cut into my money. But because I wasn't necessarily spending the money or just reinvesting it back in the business, then I had the cash that I needed to at least pay some of it off or pay all of it off. So whenever I would make money, I would just reinvest it back, and I was intentional about what I spent the money on. I'm the type of person, I do not like spending money. I'm a cheapskate. I'm pretty frugal. I don't like spending large amounts of cash, and I will take forever and ever and deliberate about purchases that I make. But I didn't cheat myself when it came to my businesses. So I would buy computers, I would buy the software, I would try to use, all the things that I bought. I bought lights, I bought all kind of audio equipment to make sure that I was giving myself a chance, to make sure that I wasn't just half-stepping, that I had what I needed. I had the provision that I needed to fully live out what I wanted to do with my dreams. And let me just say, I had savings. So I naturally save money anyway, but I was very diligent and very aggressive about how I was saving. So throughout those years I was preparing, I would say definitely the last 5 years, I was able to save up some money so that when I did transition to full time, I did have a cushion and I wasn't concerned about losing anything, or there wasn't really a hard transition because I had the money that I needed to continue to pay my bills. The fourth thing I did was I consumed a lot of content specifically from YouTube. So especially when I was figuring out some of my side hustles, I was constantly on YouTube. Or podcasts. I would say YouTube or podcasts. So when I would go for walks, I would listen to podcasts. When I was doing my side hustle with eBay, I would be having my eBay videos playing over and over and over again. So when I was folding clothes that I was going to sell on eBay, I had my phone up, I had my TV up, and I was just listening to YouTube videos over and over again. When I had to figure out how to do something with a website, how to build a website, I was on YouTube trying to figure it out. There was one podcast in particular that really helped me. It's called Side Hustle Nation. This is not like a paid endorsement or anything. I just really like that podcast. And I would listen to other people's experiences. The great thing about that podcast is that there are people from all walks of life. There are people who do service-based businesses, and there are a lot of people who do like brick and mortar, like more tangible businesses, like dog walking or like hot tub sales and things like that. And there's so many different experiences, and you'll see like the basic concepts around marketing and selling are the same, but it was just great to hear people's experiences and their different tips and tricks about how to make money and to make sales. So I would listen to all the podcast episodes, and I would re-listen to those episodes because there was always something that I missed. I would look at the YouTubers or certain podcast guests that I would hear, and I would follow them because they would put out like more consistent content, and I would just consume the information. And that's all I did. That's all I listened to was podcasts and YouTube videos. And the one thing that I realized by doing that, you have to fill your mind and fill your space with people doing the things you want to do, with people living out the dreams that you have for yourself. Because when you're left to your own devices, your vision can be limited. But when you're around people who can expand your vision and make it feel and seem possible, then it does. It does feel and seem possible. But I noticed that when I would fall off of listening to people, then I would question myself. I would doubt myself. I would like discourage myself and be like, oh, I can't do that. But then I would get so energized after I would watch a YouTube video or listen to a really good podcast episode. So I would just say, make sure you are consuming the things that are going to push you, because if you're left to your own devices, it's going to be harder. And finally, what I did before I transitioned full time, I failed a lot, and I just kept going. I failed at a lot of different things. I failed at my body butter business. I had to shut that down. I failed at my Amazon business. I had to shut that down. I still do eBay here and there, but it's not at the level that I wanted it to. I mostly work on my Boss on a Budget business at this point in time, but there are so many different strategies I've tried. I had like a more expensive course that I tried, didn't like it. I've tried different memberships. Those memberships have not worked all the time, and how I, approached it and how I did the marketing for it failed. I've tried different strategies, tried to grow more on Instagram. Those strategies have failed at times. I've tried to do different things with my YouTube and try different content, and that hasn't worked. The point is, you have to try. The point is that I just kept going. There was no way I was going to be able to transition and have what I needed to quit my job if I just tried one thing, failed, and then completely stopped. There are so many opportunities for you to win and to be successful, but there are so many opportunities for you to fail as well. And so you just have to have that mindset where failure is the juice or the gas that's going to keep you going, because you're going to fail, you're going to mess up, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to wish you had done something different or better. But I just have found like what matters most is that you did it. And then you can look back and try and tweak and adjust, but just move forward. So here's an update of where I am today. It's been about 2 years since I quit my job, and I would say I am still working for myself full time and doing well. I am stable, and that's the best that I can ask for. I also just want to put things in context. Right now, our economy is shifting. Right now, people who are really big in digital marketing and selling courses are scrambling because people are shifting. How they buy digital courses, how they engage and get services off the internet is shifting, is changing. And a lot of people don't know how to feel about that. And so I could be really unstable right now. I could be really struggling, but I'm not. And I'm very thankful for that. Right now, I have a mix of different income sources. So I have digital products where I sell courses and I sell workbooks. I have a small membership of nonprofit founders that I support with their fundraising, but I also have projects. I do contracting and have some relationships built with people who pay me to do coaching, or they pay me to do small consulting projects, because I also have a research background and do some facilitation, focus groups, and interviewing and things like that. So I have a mix of different income sources, and the mix of those income sources are really keeping me afloat, and I'm very grateful for that. So if you are, especially if you're in your 40s and you're like, I don't know if it really makes sense at this point in my life to pivot like this. I'm no longer 25, shoot, even 35. Can I afford to do this? And based on my experience, my advice is there's never going to be a good time. It's never going to feel right. It's never going to feel incredibly stable. But the one thing you don't want to do is regret. The one thing you don't want to do is regret not trying. And I'm just grateful in this process that I tried. I'm so grateful in this process that I can say, hey, I was an Amazon seller, or I did this, or I tried this, because those are the things that fed my creativity. Those are the things that fed my passion, and they made me a better person overall. And the things that I'm learning right now, or the things I've learned in this process of having my business, are going to help me 5-10 years from now. So I'm being built for what's next in my life. And I wouldn't be built as strong if I didn't try the things that I've tried. So if you're a person and you're like, should I do this? I would say try it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to do some more content on how to transition to work for yourself or to quit your job, and just what is it like running a business or shifting and pivoting in your 40s. So I'm going to talk more about that. If you want to see more content like that, or if you have topics you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.